Thursday night, late night world tour brought to you by Formula Racing League. I'm Jack Prentice, your commentator for tonight, where we have 45 minutes of short, sharp action as drivers not only fight for their own pride, but the pride of a nation. Taking you through, as we see Luke Prentice there, driving for Team New Zealand, looking to try and fine-tune the setup, as they all are at the end of practice, as it is Adam Sharp with Team England. Now, a couple of drivers missing today, with Gordon Brown away for personal reasons, driving for Team Italy. Team Italy weakened by the Scotsman, or quarter Italian, as we must say. His absence in Germany still not yet represented by the juggernaut, the behemoth that is Eresh. Eresh having not yet managed to make it into the session, although Eresh did suffer his first defeat, didn't he, last time out, when he was pipped to the post by Rafael Arruda and a resurgent Team Portugal. We'll just get you through to the driver standings at the moment. Now, we will take you through the format. So, unlike on Sunday nights, where you have only one shot, you get a 10-minute qualifying session here, where you get as many goes at it as you like. And with the conditions having varied, you can see lovely sunny weather at the moment, but with it being as cold as it has been, and with some rain having been in the area in Silverstone, then drivers will have plenty of, as I think we're going to get back to qualifying now, trackers optimum. So the dry weather certainly holding for the moment, as I think that's Paul Vidler going out for Team England. We'll just go and pick him up now, car number 10. So you'll see some drivers have got, all drivers have got a nation underneath. Some are represented by two drivers. So, Team Mozambique, for example, Team England, as another example, being represented by two drivers, with New Zealand, another one with Jack Barnes and Luke Prentice. But some are flying the flag solo. Now, to keep it fair for a team's championship, and we'll get onto that shortly, it is only the lead driver for any country will score points for the country. That being said, though, you have still got the individual championship, so all of these drivers are fighting for themselves. As I say, Eresh having not represented, of course he's going to represent. He's just fashionably late for Team Germany, joining there to back up the efforts there of Darren Townsend, who was Germany's sole representative. The Welshman representing Team Germany this season is going to be given a little bit of backup from Eresh. Townsend has not yet broken the top 10 this season. That is good news for Die Mannschaft, which is the German word for team. So you've got the drivers now going out onto the track, getting out, getting warmed up. So we're going to try and see, we can see, I think it is probably going to be Vidler, who is the furthest up the road, so will be the furthest or closest across the line in round about 2.5 minutes. You can see him there just here on the track map going into the final corner at it's not Priory, is it? Brooklands. Priory is on the old track, if you remember it. Those of a certain vintage will. And as you can see now, going through Luffield, having to take a bit of a wider line to get a little bit more heat into the tyres, maybe have a little bit of a longer corner, more stretch on the tyres, but also slightly better exit now. Vidler going through Woodcote and to start his flying lap. So we're going to go through the standings as it is so far, and we're not going to go through Jamie Thacker there, because that is the Sprint Sundays settings and standings as we go now through Brooke Beckett's and Maggot's back end of the Ferrari, not really living with the demands placed upon it by Paul Vidler, who's had an up and down season so far, shown on so many occasions he can be very, very quick, but he did have a bit of a nightmare, didn't he, last time out at Imola, so dropped a bit of a ricket there, but we'll be hoping to come back with a vengeance. Now, as we try to seek out the late night World Tour information on the Formula Racing League sim grid, I can hopefully then bring you a little bit more in the way of the standings. We're going now through Club Corner, a little bit wide on the apex there, so this will be a banker lap for most of them, all drivers barring Eresh, Ferreira and Ferreira. So Ferreira for Team Portugal, who have been top of practice, and Ferreira of Team Ecuador, who had not, it is fair to say, been high up on the standings, and Eresh having not yet, I would assume, been able to put that setup on. So we go now into the loop. This is the new section that they built back in 2010, wasn't it? So you used to be able to go to Abbey, which is the fast right-hand, Formula 1 turn 1, turn left, and then have a vicious dip down, flat-out right-hander through Bridge Corner, which sent you immediately to Priory at a fast left-hander before then getting you back to the loop that they're going down now. Whereas now is for a little bit better in terms of viewing purposes. You've got that loop there, which Bernie Ecclestone was able to get his grandstands on, which is what it's all about with any track changes nowadays. We go now through the final real corner at Luffield. Such a patient corner there. We have to just wait to get the car straight through Woodcote, which is more of an acceleration zone. And where we're going to go, that's a 2-minute flat 0.3. Now the track's going to get quicker as the track is not the warmest at the moment. We're going to have now Darren Townsend, 14 Germany, just across the line now. So he's going through Woodcote again, that little acceleration zone that I mentioned previously. And where is this going to be? It's going to be, well, it's second. It's only half a second off for Darren Townsend. So good lap so far. A few more coming in now. Serafino Gabino of Team Italy in the Porsche goes fourth behind Marcel Basler, and I think that's Andrew Tulloch now crossing the line to start a lap time, so he'd invalidated, and that is 1:87. So Brush Tilly's gone fastest overall from car number 2. He's got a tenth quicker than Vidler. Now you've got, I think, 3:33 is Luke Prentice in the Aston Martin for Team New Zealand. Another man I think is starting out having invalidated previously because he had been out on to the racetrack a bit quicker than that. Now, who's that? 1:79. That's Keller across the line. And car 76 is Mendes. So we're getting into the 1:59. It's a great lap from Trevor Mendes, one of the most improved drivers of 2025 in FRL, and that is another feather in his cap. And 1:59.3 is very quick out of the box. He's half a second quicker than Keller in the Team Hungary McLaren. Now 4:04, that's Ayres now setting or going out for his formation lap, as it were. Josh Clayton now for Team Mozambique goes quickest on a 1:58.9 with now car number 13. That is Jack Barnett, the debutant in the championship, and shadowing Luke Prentice for Team New Zealand. Where is this going to be? Currently 7th at the moment, 1.8 seconds off the pace. It's a competitive lap time with Adam Sharp setting a very competitive lap time in the Honda as he goes fastest, pole position on a 1:58.6. That'll do nicely. Paul Vidler is next across the line, and he takes 1.5 seconds off of his time and locks out the front row provisionally for Team England. That's 1/10 of a second off, 1.5 tenths you can see there. And the Ferrari starting to mean business. Now, here is Darren Townsend next across the line in the McLaren for Team Germany. Where does this put him? 2.1 seconds off the pace at the moment. Still 2.1 off the pace. Car number 12 next to try his luck. That's Basler. Basler goes across the line, and it's 5th for Basler with Serafino Gabino in the tricolor-coloured Italy Porsche livery. He goes 9th, and that's Andrew Tulloch, actually, who's gone up to 3rd position. So the Aston Martin and the Flying Scotsman once again proving a bit of a winning combination with, I think David Fars has now gone up into 12th for Team Belgium, with Michael and Brush remaining in 8th. Luke Prentice now across the line, still invalidating, still 16th. Needs to get a lap time on the board a little bit quicker than that, because he's only really got 2 goes. He needs to make sure this one is safe and secure. Keller goes across the line. He goes 7th. Trevor Mendes back on pole position. 1:58.5. Where's the Mozambique driver pulled that out from? With now car 17, Darren Mark Davies, up into 10th place for Team Wales. So good showing there for Darren Mark Davies. We're going to go now to one of the hot favourites. That is Ayres. Across the line we go now through Woodcote. Where does this put him as an opening gambit? 2nd. Dead level with Trevor Mendes, and that is one way to start your session. Now, Jurgen Verret, driving for Team Ecuador, is going to be next across the line, and he's 14th. So, a bit of time to find there for Verret. He's usually a little bit higher up than that, so expects the Ecuador team to be represented a bit higher than that. Car number 13 is Jack Barnett, 2.2 seconds off the pace, finds half a second, goes up into the top 10. Good lap time there for the New Zealand driver, with Adam Sharp improving, but not enough. He's half a tenth just over slower than both the pole and second place drivers. So Team England certainly with a bit of a strong showing so far. Now I think Paul Vidler's gone out again, so I think next over the line is Darren Townsend, currently 13th for Team Germany Now, where's this going to put him? His teammate is joint first, but by virtue of setting the time second, he will start second at the moment. And Darren, well, he's gone up into 10th, 1.6 seconds off the pace. Good lap time there from Darren Townsend. Team Germany there with a strong showing for both drivers. Here's Gabino now with a Porsche, looking a little bit edgy through Woodcote, and it is still 12th position, sorry. Now, Tulloch across the line, 0.3 of a second, but he's only good enough for 6th. So, Bruschulli, meanwhile, goes back up into 9th place for Team Canada. Not a Porsche track here as Luke Prentice now finally across the line, and finally, no, still not setting a lap time. He's going off, and everywhere, and he's starting at the back as it stands. It's going to be a real blow for Team New Zealand. Now, Christian Keller, 8th at the moment, still 8th, knocks tenths, hundredths off in the McLaren for Team Hungary, but going well nonetheless. Car 76 has crossed the line. That is Trevor Mendes. No quicker so far, so I think he's backed off and having another go. 404 is Airish. Now, is there going to be any improvement here for the German? We're going to see very, very shortly. No improvement there for the moment. So, all to play for with 30 seconds to go. Josh Clayton up into 4th, but he's 1/10 of a second off. If he can find even a 10th and a half, pole position might be for Team Mozambique. Car number 8 is across the line. That's Joachim Bereth, still 15th with 15 seconds to go. He's going to get another go. So, it's Jack Barnett there, Team New Zealand representative, currently 11th. And he's up into 9th. Good lap time there for the New Zealand driver, Adam Sharp, now across the line. Pole position it is. 2/10 he's got between himself and Mendes stroke Airish. That's a great lap time there for Team England, and he'll be rightly pleased. He's got another go too, so there's scope to improve there for the Honda driver, and weaving his way through Beckett and Maggers. He can be rightly pleased with that. We're going to go now to Darren Townsend, because across the line we go for what was previously 11th, but if he finds even half a 10th, he's up into the top 10. He does. He finds 0.3 of a second, and that's a great lap time there for Darren Townsend. He is up into 10th for the moment. Now, car number 19 is Serafino Gabino, and he is not going to complete his qualifying because he's coming into the pits, as so is Andrew Tulloch. Into the pits he comes. So, car 187 is David Fast. Where's this going to be for Team Belgium? Feels unlucky to be 14th at the moment, only 2 seconds off. Runs very wide through there. That will cost him time, and he does not gain. Luke Prentice, meanwhile, across the line. And where's this? It's 4th. So imagine what you could have done with a banker, because that is 0.2 of a second off, and that is an excellent recovery for Team New Zealand. Now we go to Airish, because he's next across the line, and you'd have to say his favourite for pole position. Trevor Mendes has not improved, so will not start pole, but he's still got a really good chance of being on the front row, because it's just his Mozambique teammate Josh Clayton and this man here, Airish, for Team Germany. Across the line we go, 2/10 to find. Where does he go? He does find it. Half a 10th clear of Adam Sharp, and it's inevitable in its conclusion as Josh Clayton now goes up into 5th, or he remains 5th for Team Mozambique. So, Airish for Team Germany. You'd fear snatching pole late on, as Jack Barnett now is the next across the line, and the last across the line, as Team Germany celebrate what will look like an unlikely pole position in the Ford Mustang. Here is Jack Barnett. Where does he go? 9th. Great lap time there. Real improvement there showed from Jack Barnett to go up into the battle of what is really the midfield. So he's leading that battle. Excellent work from the New Zealand driver. But the story, as ever, is Airish finding late on pole position for Team Germany, and the man who is currently sweeping all before him in the standings, as he usually does on Thursday night, is on pole once again. So Adam Sharp there, having set what looked to be the winning time, 400ths of a second, less than half a 10th, he's had to find to keep that, and unfortunately it wasn't in the Honda. But it looks like we're going to see yet another great battle between these two, because if Sharp can get away in the Honda, and if he can get across the Ford, then he might just be able to control the race from there. But it's going to be really tough. And a word for Trevor Mendes. So long ago, well, not that long ago, he was so far off the pace in terms of 4, 5, 6 seconds a lap. But he's worked through 2025. And here's the results, because he is 0.2 of a second off of what many believe is the fastest driver across the server in Airish. And he's third position. He's sharing third position with the wily old fox that is Luke Prentice, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid for Team New Zealand in the Aston Martin, having only set one valid lap time. Imagine what he could have done had he have completed more. He's the fastest Aston Martin, and he's ahead of Josh Clayton by less, well, just over half a tenth for Mozambique, with Paul Vidler rounding out the top 6 as we hopefully now will get on to the action very soon. Andrew Tulloch, meanwhile, will start from 7th for Team Scotland, only 0.6 of a second off the pace, so we can be a little bit disappointed with that, because usually that would have got him in the top 2 rows. Marcel Basler for the Netherlands, who's previously represented Germany in team, in 8th position. If we had somebody go out, no, it's Ferreira, I think, who would gone in and out, so that's why he's dropped to the back. Jack Barnett will go from 9th, what is his best qualifying performance by far for Team New Zealand, so he's backing up Luke Prentice. Well, he won't score points for New Zealand, but he will score points for his overall championship, and will be well deserved if he can stay there. Christian Keller, meanwhile, will start from 10th. The ever-dependable Hungarian will go from the mid-grid once again. The track is green, and the temperature's not very high. You can see there that it starts to cloud over. I wonder if we might actually have more rain coming, because we had some earlier in practice before we started streaming, and I wonder if there's any realms of possibility of that coming once again. Now, who we lost? Because Serafino Gabino, who will now be going from 17th for Team Italy. I think he was up into, he was 12th or 13th, wasn't he? Wasn't terribly high up, so he's lost only a few positions there, nonetheless. So we're going to go with 2 minutes left before the start. We're going to take you through the grid once again. So as we said earlier, Erich on pole for Team Germany, ahead of Team England's Adam Sharp. Trevor Mendes 3rd for Mozambique, with Luke Prentice in 4th for Team New Zealand. Josh Clayton is the 2nd Mozambique driver. He's 5th on the grid in the Aston Martin, with the 2nd Team England car of Paul Vidler in 6th. Andrew Tulloch is 7th for Team Scotland, the sole representative for Team Scotland tonight, with Marcel Basler in 8th for the Team Netherlands. Jack Barnett is the 2nd New Zealand driver. He will start from 9th, ahead of the Hungarian driver Christian Keller. Darren Townsend's the 2nd representative for Team Germany, and he goes from 11th, ahead of Canada's Mark Limbrus-Chilly. Disappointing qualifying for the Canadian, because he's been a lot quicker than that throughout the season. Darren Mark Davies flying the flag solo for Team Wales. He goes from 13th, ahead of David Fart for Team Belgium, with Joachim Bereth in 15th for Team Ecuador, and Fernando Ferreira not qualifying for Portugal, and as the sole representative, with Rafael Aruda having won for Team Portugal last time out. Serafino Gabino goes from 17th, having disconnected from what would have been 13th on the grid. We'll give you just a couple of seconds before we get going. So I mentioned rain earlier on, and look at what we can see there with 15 minutes to go. Now, drivers are meant to pit, or there's a pit window, as you can see there. There's the yellow window next to their car numbers with number 1. Now, that means that they have to pit, and usually it's a case of come in and you have a 25-second fixed refuelling time. Doesn't matter what you do. Drivers might end up actually fueling a little bit longer and seeing exactly how that rain, which you can see is going to be quite heavy when it hits, and see exactly how much they need to, or whether they need to stay out, and whether or not they need to consider a change in conditions. Now, I haven't got long to make that change, because if you go too long, you're starting from the pit lane. It ticks down to 8, 7, 6. 5 seconds to go for the drivers to sort themselves out, hit drive, and let's see what we have in store. Nobody's ported to the pit, so all drivers have made their decisions, and Erich now leads the drivers away through Woodcote, and we are about to get going with Adam Sharp in the Honda for Team England, just to the outside. We're just waiting to get to the timing line now. We wait once more, and we wait once more. It's coming up, fellas, and we will be foot to the floor. And we are go, go, go. And Erich makes a good start there. He had the drop on Adam Sharp, and Sharp has been squeezed out wide, but has managed to slot into 2nd place. Trevor Mendes is up into 3rd, is still in 3rd, with Josh Clayton up into 4th. No, Mendes drops to 4th behind Luke Prentice for Team New Zealand, there's I don't know whether or not Mendes has got an issue here, because it does look like he's on the wrong tyres, with Josh Clayton having been balked by his teammate. Do wonder if he's up into fourth position still. He has got Paul Vidler behind, and Luke Prentice for Team New Zealand up into third. Disaster for Mendes, by the way, for Team Mozambique. What was third position? It's now looking an awful lot less promising, because Luke Prentice has gone up into third position, with Clayton fourth, Vidler fifth, ahead of Basler. I think Andrew Tulloch did go rally crossing briefly, but he's back on in seventh, having lost no time. And Christian Keller is up past Jack Barnett, as is Marklin Bristoli. So Barnett has dropped to 11th, ahead of Darren Townsend and David Fuzz, with, I think, Darren Mark Davis also dropping back to 16th. Fernando Ferreira is still 17th for Portugal. Will be disappointed with that. But out front is Team Germany and Eresh, and the Mustang is just starting to stretch his legs a little bit. The Honda not really able to keep pace with him. That is Adam Sharpers. Down the outside goes Josh Clayton on a move on Luke Prentice. Luke Prentice shuts the door and tries to make it Paul Vidler's problem. Paul Vidler in fifth for Team England. Won't score a point for England, but will be for his own personal championship. I remind you, only the top driver of each nation is eligible to score points. So down the inside goes Josh Clayton. No, not quite. Luke Prentice still taking a little bit of time to get to grips with conditions, having dropped off the back of Sharp fairly quickly, as Vidler there has another little look at Josh Clayton for Team Mozambique. So bit of a unique situation in that he's not only got to fight forwards, but he's also got to be really careful about what happens behind. So bit of double jeopardy here for Josh Clayton on lap number one, as they do complete lap number one, and it is 0.8 seconds, the gap between Eresh and Sharp, with Luke Prentice a further 1.4 seconds back, and he has got a bit of a train behind him. No one behind him. It has a gap of a second to the next car, so you get to Joachim Vereth, who is in 15th for Team Ecuador, and even then it is 1.1 seconds at most. Clayton looking a little bit busy through Beckett's and Maggots, and now down onto Hanger Straight. Prentice did just run wide, but no issues there down the straight, and I think he might just have this covered. But Clayton realises he might need to clear Prentice sooner rather than later if he's to make an impact on the lead two of Sharp and Eresh. Eresh having stretched out to over a second clear of Adam Sharp already. Luke Prentice, meanwhile, might just have to go on the defensive. No, not quite. It did look like Clayton might just have a look down the inside, but nothing doing there for Team Mozambique. So Prentice is where he wants to be. He's in his natural habitat, which is at the head of a long train, and I say that with the full sense of irony, knowing what my races have been like recently. So Prentice there in third position. Good start it was to get past Trevor Mendes. I don't really know what happened. I'm sure we'll find out, because it was a really poor start from Mendes, having started third and dropped all the way behind Luke. That wasn't so much of a problem, but to be almost spooked and caught out by Clayton, I think it really might have thrown him off, because then he lost out to Basler and Tulloch in short order. Speaking of short order, that's the gap between Luke Prentice and Josh Clayton. Clayton has a real good run through the Wellington corner, down the Wellington straight, but not able to make any more of it. Is he going to have a look down the inside? Luke Prentice shuts the door on him, and Team New Zealand retain third position at the moment. Now, I think he might just have a look down the inside through Luffield, but it's almost tempting, really, because there are two different lines there, to actually get sucked in. You can see, meanwhile, as we go up to the weather forecast, that rain is going to get heavier and heavier and heavier, so I think drivers might just wait until it gets to sort of wet conditions, go past the crossover point by a lap or so, and then assess, because that'll be then when you know exactly what the weather's going to do towards the end of the race. As Clayton now through the Beckett's and Maggots complex, his car looks a little bit more aggressive, a little bit angrier compared to Luke Prentice. Prentice, who's dropped a few tenths now to second place. Sharp, some of that will be having had to defend for the Team New Zealand driver, which is a position that he's not unaccustomed to. As I think now, as Basler, no, not quite. Trevor Mendes has dropped back a couple of seconds to Andrew Tulloch, so he's got, though, a decent gap between himself and Keller. So I thought there might have been some movement. There has not been at the moment, although Darren Townsend has, as you can see there, got past Jack Barnett. Jack Barnett dropping from 12th. He did start 9th. It was a great qualifying performance, if you remember, just a few moments ago. But he's dropped back into 12th position, and on the back of that train with David Fast up into 13th now. and Serafino Gambino 14th for Team Italy, so making up for lost time. That's roughly where he was on the grid a little bit earlier on. Darren Mark Davis, we all haven't dropped a little bit further back as Josh Clayton drops himself a little bit further back there, nearly running into the back of Luke Prentice, and now side by side with Paul Vidler. They go door banging, wheel banging, and all sorts of banging there through the loop, but I think Clayton's going to hold on as Vidler finds the dirty stuff on the outside, and now he's going to be under attack from Basler. What's Basler going to do for Team Netherlands? Is he going to be able to make the move into Brooklands? He is not, and the watching brief from Scotland's Andrew Tulloch remains a watching brief, but Prentice there nearly hit by Josh Clayton. I don't know whether Clayton was trying to do something around the outside, just got it all wrong, or whether there was something just a little bit more innocent at play, but he just simply missed his breaking point. But there was nearly a real tough accident there for Luke Prentice and Clayton now still all over the back of the New Zealand driver. Wouldn't be at all surprised actually if Luke had to accelerate and lift off the brakes when he saw the Mozambique Aston Martin coming his way because of the speed differential there. But Paul Vidler looking like an angry bee, isn't he? Who was obviously forced out wide by Clayton. All fair, it must be said, from certainly the viewpoint of the stream. But Vidler there still paying for blood at the moment, isn't he? And he's playing for Mozambique blood at the moment, because whilst the Mozambique driver of Josh Clayton's again going down the inside into Stowe, Vidler was very much the third sort of bystander, really, that thought he was going to have a look at fourth place, but not quite. And obviously, if he had got past, he would have been going after his nemesis, Luke Prentice. Those two having had plenty of history in the past. Prentice now 3 seconds off the back. What he is doing, whether he means to or not, is allowing both Eresh and Adam Sharp to get away. So those two are going to have a little bit more of a flexibility, well, a little bit more flexibility in terms of strategy when that rain hits, because they've got a little bit more time to make that decision. Prentice now under attack once again from Clayton, but Clayton thinking better of it, having remembered obviously what happened a lap or so previous. Now Vidler, is he going to be able to launch a move? The Ferrari pretty good at the twisty stuff, it must be said, but it doesn't have the grunt of the Aston Martin, so a little bit of a catch-22. Vidler, who's no stranger to an aggressive move, might just have to pull one of those out again, because at the moment he's stuck in a battle, well, he's stuck really in a train from third all the way back to seventh. No real prospect as he does go down the inside, and he tanks Josh Clayton. I said he might have to pull out an aggressive move. That was probably not the aggressive move that needed to happen. It's caught out Marcel Basler, as you can see, has got damage there. It's allowed Luke Prentice to get away, and it's also allowed Andrew Tulloch to move up into fourth place. The experienced Scotsman is a man who all too often profits from other drivers' recklessness, and he's done so again today as Vidler, as unfortunately it's not a move that he's a stranger to making, and unfortunately it's happened again, whereas Josh Clayton, I think, has dropped. Where has he dropped to? 10th place. So Mendes now is the lead Mozambique driver in 6th position. But Josh Clayton, once again, he was robbed of victory last time by a stop-go penalty, which was his own fault, and it's further bad luck on Thursday night here, having been spun by Paul Vidler. The second England car doing more damage to Team Mozambique than he is doing good for Team England. But he is now having a look at David Fast. Fast now up into 11th after all those shenanigans. And is he going to be able to make the move down the inside? No, not quite. So the Ferrari looking beaten up both at the front and the back, so the balance won't be affected. It'll just be overall grip. Clayton, meanwhile, doesn't look too damaged, apart from the fact that he's obviously dropped back 6 positions. It'll be doubly disappointing, obviously, with what happened last week, that a chance at a podium, even at this early stage, appears to have gone a begging for Josh Clayton, and you really do feel for him, because the bad luck last week, which was an error of judgment, bad luck again, someone else's error of judgment, it looks like, and they'll be disappointed with that. Now, Luke Prentice, what can he do to consolidate third place? Well, he's actually doing okay now at the moment, with Tulloch leading Basler and Mendes. So Andrew Tulloch has at the moment got a rather irritated Basler behind him. Basler might have gained 1 place, but he's lost out to Tulloch, and he's also got a lot more damage on the front of that Ferrari. Through, it must be said, no fault of his own, but trying to find a way down the inside of the spinning Clayton, and unfortunately for Basler, he was, really the innocent victim there. And meanwhile, up front, it's still 1.7 seconds between Eresh and Sharp, and Sharp is keeping that gap. He's not really been able to make any inroads, but there's no shame in that. It is Eresh after all. He's not really been able to make much in the way of any inroads, but he is still within striking distance should the German make a mistake, and he has done it before. Not very often, but he has done it before. He did so at Zandvoort before Sharp got held up actually by Mark Limbrush-Tully, who was on that wonderful strategy of not taking tyres and holding everybody up to second position. It worked out really well for Team Canada on that day, and he's making moves at the moment, Team Canada, because he is now up into 8th position. It was 12th place on the grid for Brush-Tully, which is not something that we've seen previously from him. He's been getting quicker, and he's been one of the quickest drivers so far, if the results haven't always shown. The Porsche looking very capricious through Stowe, isn't he? Trying to fight the car all the way there, but he's still up into 8th position. He's got the ever-dependable Christian Keller, whereas he's not been known for his pace. I think he won't mind me saying he has been very dependable and very solid throughout this season. He's up into 7th place, Keller, so we'll just have a look now. I think, yeah, he's been 7th for a little while, obviously, with what happened with Clayton and Vidler. Vidler up into 11th place and is the next car behind Josh Clayton, should Clayton be able to find a way past Barnett. So that battle may resume a little bit later on. I think Clayton will be very, very keen to get past as quickly as possible Jack Barnett, who will do another job. Team New Zealand, he's already had one New Zealand Aston Martin hold him up. Josh Clayton, is he about to face another New Zealand Aston Martin holding him up? Well, Barnett doesn't have to defend, does he, going into Brooklands, but he does run wide. Now they're going to go side by side through Luffield now. I don't think he's going to make it there, but is he going to be able to get the cut back? He's going to try and turn back up the inside, but no, nothing doing. Barnett holds his line very well, and there's going to be no further overtaking for the moment for Josh Clayton on Jack Barnett. So Clayton's frustrations continue at the expense of Team New Zealand, even if that's been by fair means rather than foul from earlier. And Andrew Tulloch has still got the battle that's going to revolve him, isn't it, really? It's, I would say, behind him, but it's not. Mendes 8/10 off the back of Basler, who's only 4 off the back of Tulloch. But as rain is starting to hit, as you can see, very heavily. So it will be a case now for the drivers looking at the forecast of get in once the weather turns. You have to time it to perfection. And now if you're the lead duo, you've got a lap in hand over the other cars. What they might do is try and get to the crossover point where they say wet tyres optimum, give it another lap, and wait for the rain to fully settle on the track and then pit. Because if you pit too early and you cook your tyres and you get too high on the pressures and too high on the temperatures, then it becomes difficult. Although looking at it, it's already started to turn the track greasy, so it is very heavy indeed. The drivers are going to have to be that extra bit careful, as Tulloch has been catching Luke Prentice. Now these two, probably 2 of the 4 most experienced drivers on the grid, these two, so there'll be no silly business here between the two, especially with them being relative allies, or as much as he can be in league racing. So Tulloch now having caught up, he's took another 4/10 of a second out Prentice, who's been struggling for pace, hasn't he, if not racecraft throughout the day. As Mendes dropped back, hasn't he, a few tenths off the back of Basler, who's wisely, I think, dropped back a few more tenths off the back of Tulloch as they all start to work themselves out. Now, will somebody come in a little bit earlier, as I think Eresh started to struggle, isn't he, because he's lost a few tenths there to Adam Sharp. It was 1.8, it's now 1.4, 1.2 seconds. So the Honda now started to have its fun, isn't it? Because now, as we can see, Luke Prentice, who's starting to hold up, I think Andrew Tulloch is coming to the pits. He's one of those making that early stop that we mentioned earlier, as I think Trevor Mendes is in, so 5th and 6th, well, no, 4th and 6th before they started to pit. They've come in, and 3rd and 5th remain out there. So they'll be coming in this lap, those drivers who haven't already stopped. But if you're putting wet tyres on what is at the moment a greasy surface, it's going to be difficult because you're going to boil your tyres quite quickly, although they will come back down. Mendes is in, Keller's in. Not fast. Barnett, Clayton are also in, as well as Serafino Gabino in for 14th for Team Italy, and Darren Townsend, who's pitting from 15th. So it's all gone a bit all right for the second Team Germany car, it would appear. Darren Mark Davis is also in, but Fernando Ferreira stays out for Team Portugal. So Sharp's lost a couple of tenths, hasn't he? Team England to Team Germany, as we're already 15 minutes through the 45-minute race, so 1/3 of the race to go, 1/4 of an hour gone, 2/4 of an hour left as Tulloch now leaves the pits as the leading driver on wet tyres. And he's got quite a bit of time, hasn't he, on Trevor Mendes? So either he's had a really good stop or Mendes might have had a slightly slower one. Barnett's also leaving, and he's jumped Christian Keller, isn't he? So Team New Zealand, certainly the second car, is upwardly mobile. Certainly not the roadblock that the one in third has been, and he won't mind me saying that, Luke Prentice, because it's been guile and it's been craft rather than pace that has got him up to third at the moment. But Keller has dropped now behind Trevor Mendes, so that was seventh place. Not behind Trevor Mendes, isn't he? So seventh place Keller. Before they stopped, anyway, it was dropped behind Jack Barnett, who was sort of 9th to 10th. Josh Clayton, meanwhile, is out behind them as well, so that's going to be further traffic shenanigans to deal with for him, with Gabino, Townsend and Davies, the others to have pitted. So Ferreira, Ferreth, Fast, Vidler, Brushtully, Basler, Prentice, Erish and Sharp yet to fill, though as I say that, they're all coming in now. So Erish pits, Sharp pits, Luke Prentice is coming into the pits as well. Don't think anybody's going to be taking any silly risks here because the track's gone damp, so you're not going to get any advantage now from staying out on tyres. You would have done on slicks if it was greasy, but it's damp now. Vidler's coming in, obviously, with the damage it would be kind to say, self-inflicted from earlier on. Joachim Ferreth is in 8th position, and he's coming in as well with Ferreira. He's almost got onto the back, hasn't he, of David Fast. So we're going to look at Andrew Tulloch, who is, I think there's one more driver. Ferreira's gone out for his lap of glory, isn't he? I don't know whether that's wise, but the Lamborghini, he was last anyway, so he might as well take a risk on the strategy. Here is Andrew Tulloch coming through now. Erish has already been listed as completing his stops. He'll get out, obviously, ahead of Tulloch, and it's pretty unrealistic to expect Scotsman to overhaul the German there as Prentice and Adam Sharp leave. Now, this is going to be where it's crucial because Tulloch already up to speed with those wet tyres up to speed as well. Adam Sharp leaves the pits. He's out ahead, but Tulloch is going to get third position, is he? He's coming out right alongside Luke Prentice. They're going to go side by side. Prentice has certainly been caught out by Tulloch, but only by about a second, and Tulloch backs out. Prentice gets the drop on the Scotsman, and that is going to be third position on the road at the third position, fourth position on the road for Luke Prentice, as Basler has got into fifth, hasn't he? Marcel Basler has got into fifth on the road anyway, so he'll be sixth showing when it comes to the pit stops having sorted themselves out. Tulloch up into fifth on the road and the net fourth. Basler's fifth ahead of Brushtully. Marklin Brushtully's gone up into fifth position. Has he? No, that is Trevor Mendes, who's currently in sixth. Brushtully forcing, oh no, I was about to say Brushtully forcing Clayton onto the grass. It seems like the Porsche turned over one too many times, and further shenanigans there for Josh Clayton. I think, if I'm being brutally honest, that Brushtully may have been what you would call overtly aggressive there on Clayton, who's not had the run of the green there, it must be said. But he's survived the Aston Martin. No damage done to either car, except possibly to Brushtully's side and certainly to Brushtully's race, as he was trying to force Clayton onto the grass. Don't think once you're at that point you can really force him much further once there's an overlap. And it did seem that there was an overlap, hence why the Porsche spun out and nearly spun off the road. So Erish leading by 9. Look at the time. He's going he's going 8 seconds. Look at the time he's going. Now the Honda's struggling of Adam Sharp really to get up to speed. Andrew Tulloch has dropped back from Luke Prentice, so the Aston Martin in Luke's hands looking a lot better. But what has happened to Adam Sharp here? Because the pace has gone. The Honda's going in reverse at the moment. He'll need to stem the tide because he's losing second after second, isn't he? He was 9.4. Okay, no, he's gained a couple of tenths, so whatever happened does look like it's righted himself, but he's got 8 tenths now ahead of Luke Prentice. Andrew Tulloch is 1 second back, and Basler has dropped 8 seconds behind. I think, no, he's not fixed the damage. I was going to try and make an excuse for him. It's just pace related. Trevor Mendes is 7th ahead of Paul Vidler in 8th position. So Paul Vidler, having done egregious battle, it must be said, with one Mozambique driver, he's now going to be doing battle with another very soon, as Jack Barnett in 9th position retains 9th position for Team New Zealand. Josh Clayton has gone off. And what was that changing there? No, it's just where the times were changing. I thought something had caught the eye at the top of the leaderboard. That's not the case and so there's no need to worry. Though Trevor Mendes has got past. It's Ferreira, isn't it? So Fernando Ferreira, sorry, who is in last place now. He pitted after his lap of glory, and he is out right at the back. He's trailing in at the back, isn't he, at the moment, for Team Portugal. Not been the season that Ferreira would have wanted normally. In the thick of it at the front, although Luke Prentice has got past Adam Sharp. So Adam Sharp's dropped to fourth, and what looked so promising for Team England as now is now looking like he might not be on the podium for either Vidler or Sharp. Sharp's now dropped to fourth behind the Aston Martin duo of Luke Prentice and Andrew Tulloch, as those two move serenely through up another place once again. After, certainly for Tulloch anyway, after the early shenanigans involving the other Team England car with Paul Vidler and Josh Clayton. But now Sharp, having got the fastest laps, he will get plenty of points for that. There'll be 5 points on offer for him for that. But he's going to need them, isn't he? Because he's fourth at the moment as Andrew Tulloch goes wide. Now they're going to go side by side through Luffield. Now the Scotsman is going to have to keep tight to the inside. Does run slightly wide on exit, as now he has to catch it. And now is this going to be an opportunity for Team England and Adam Sharp? I think it might be going into Cop's corner. Now they won't do anything silly, these two. As I say, two of the most experienced drivers on the grid. And Sharp backs out wisely, but there are chinks in the armour for Team Scotland, and all this is happening whilst once again, as others battle, Luke Prentice is making good his escape. So you would not call it a lucky second place at the moment, but you would call it one where he's ridden his luck, and he's certainly taken full advantage of those not having quite the smoothest ride before us. Sharp was 1/10 of the second back, but through the complex, he's inevitably going to drop further back. So what was 2.3 seconds between Tulloch and Prentice, it's now 1.9, so it's certainly not pace that's got in there, but guile and expertise as Adam Sharp is dropped 8/10 of a second. But the Honda, not the easiest thing to drive. You can drive it quickly once, but you can also be caught out again and again. So the Honda will have to find out what happened there between those two, because what was an almost comfortable second has obviously then he dropped back. He did look like he was steadying the ship, so to speak. And then, having dropped back at, it must have been either Stoke Corner, I know we've been struggling there earlier, or possibly Club Chicane. But Sharp there now dropping back into fourth. Basler is in fifth position, ahead now of Trevor Mendes. Trevor Mendes started to get big in the mirrors of Marcel Basler, because that gap is under a second. The Mozambique driver was third, wasn't he, on the grid? For so long he was on provisional pole. But he is now trying to get back into the top five, what would be a bit of a save as far as Mozambique are concerned. Paul Vidler is in at seventh position, and Josh Clayton still hasn't dealt with the New Zealand driver of Jack Barnett. The second New Zealand driver certainly playing his part here, because eighth position, as I say that, he has now got past. So you can see ACC updating itself, so Clayton now is going to be next on the list of Paul Vidler. I look forward to seeing how that goes with Barcelona now with a little bit of damage, having gotten almost, well, I'm not going to say he's got a queue behind him, but he has got Trevor Mendes within a second of him as they complete what is lap 11 and move on to lap 12. Over halfway through now, so we would suggest that there'll be 22 laps for the drivers to complete. Now it's there or thereabouts, about 2 minutes per lap, as Basler now has basically 11 or 12 laps of what will be a rigorous examination, I'm sure, with Mendes having improved markedly, hasn't he, since I remember the first of the late night World Tour events, where he was 3, 4, 5 seconds off the pace, and now look, he's fighting for the top 6, and he's doing rather well, thank you. He does run slightly wide coming out of the complex, and now moves slightly back over to the left-hand side to get a good run at 4. Stowe, let's see if there's any other battles. I think Serafino Gabino has caught the back of Joachim Ver. As soon as I say that, they space out to what is about a second. The Italian in the Porsche disconnected early, was 13th on the grid. He then dropped to 17th because of connection issues, and now the Italian is back up into the top 12 and making good on that race pace. Now the Porsche, can he get into the top 11, maybe in the top 10 if he can get up past Berra fairly quickly? He can hopefully then have a run at Christian Keller. Christian Keller there or thereabouts as always for Team Hungary. Is Martin Bruschtulli now making his way through after what's been an eventful race for the Canadian. who did appear to shut the door on Team England a little bit too vigorously, but all ended fair for the Canadian in terms of he was able to collect himself, having spun to the outside of Stowe, and he's now got Townsend ahead, the second Team Germany representative, and the Belgium representative, that is David Faas, in 15th place. Faas, who's doing a good job, or happy doing a good job, has dropped back a little bit, but he's still ahead of both Ferreira and Darren Mark Davies. We're now going to go to the, I'm not going to say league group, because Eresh, I'll just show you what he looks like, because you're not going to see much of him, because Team Germany appear to have this in the bag. He's not exactly sprinting away from Luke Prentice, but he's just edging it out half a second. That's all he needs to do. The battle might well be Adam Sharp has gone off again, hasn't he? Because he's now only a second and a half clear of Basler of Team Netherlands. So a three-way battle for the podium is now going to be a battle possibly for second place, although Tulloch unable to make an impression on Luke Prentice, it must be said, who's picked his pace up a little bit relative to those around him earlier. What was 2.5 seconds between the two now? Still looks about that, doesn't it, going down the Hanger Straight? Tulloch has tended to have the better in the first sector, but Prentice has found, and he does again, but Prentice has found a little bit more around the rest of the lap, with Vidler now having caught the back, I think, of Trevor Mendes. So danger here for Team Mozambique once again at the hands of Paul Vidler. Going into Stowe corner, the Ferrari goes a bit wide to try to unsettle Mendes. It will take a little bit more than that to unsettle Mendes, as Mendes now heads on towards the Valley Club chicane. Now the Ferrari's got to be a bit more careful than he was a little bit earlier on, because doesn't want double trouble at the hands of Team Mozambique. Mendes now onto the Hamilton straight through what was the final corner in Formula One terms. Now Vidler's having a look, isn't he, going to Abbey? That's not going to work. Nor is it going to work really through Farman into the loop. Now Ferrari's got to pick his moment, probably set him up out of the Wellington straight. Now he's going to go around the outside. He's going to launch, and he drives clean around the outside. Well, that was a lot better in how that was executed. Trevor Mendes there not putting up a huge fight, but maybe trying to use the Team England car to go and have try and have some fun with the driver. Where was Marcel Basler? Because there's been a disconnection somewhere. Paul Vidler's up into 5th. What has happened to Basler? Because Team Netherlands have dropped all the way to 8th. So we didn't see it, but the German representing Holland has dropped to 8th position, and now Paul Vidler's next victim, quote-unquote, is his teammate Adam Sharp. So I'm sure they'll play a little bit more sensibly here than what they have done, from what Vidler had done a little bit earlier on. But Vidler, you have to credit his comeback. That's great driving there to come back up into 5th position. And Mendes didn't make it the most difficult, but driving clean around the outside, Vidler can be rightly pleased with that move, if nothing else, at this race. So Vidler there up into 5th position now, and Sharp in 4th position. Team England 4th and 5th, with Mozambique 6th and 7th. And so that represents a good return to form. That'll be points for Team England for 4th and points for Mozambique for 6th, because I remind you that only the top driver of each nation will actually score points, and Vidler might have a further difficulty with the race positioning when it comes to the stewards a little bit later on. We shall wait and see. Basler, meanwhile, is in 8th, and he's just ahead of the second New Zealand car of Jack Barnett. Jack Barnett now having his strongest race by far this season, and can be, he's in the top 10, a competitive top 10, it must be said. And, he's starting to hassle Basler. Basler, I don't know what happened to have him go off. We completely missed it on the map of us, so I would say that the Ferrari might be running out of grip with 15 minutes to go, and Jack Barnett there, can he take advantage? Of course, Christian Keller's right behind him, and so is Joachim Vera. Serafino Gabino has lost a lot of time to Vera, so I assume that Vera might actually have passed the Italian rather than the Italian attacking, as was possibly erroneously thought a little bit earlier on. Bruce Tully, meanwhile, 1.8 seconds now off the back of Townsend, and what was a potentially strong race to Team Canada has rather gone off in smoke, with that is Fast actually attacking for 14th, isn't it? So Team Belgium 15th at the moment, and Bruce Tully is 14th now. It's going to dry out completely, isn't it, in the next 5 minutes? So the track won't dry out, but the weather rain will stop, And what is heavy rain will then give way to complete sunshine, you would expect, or as at the moment cloud. But with the track as it is, will we get a dry race towards the end? We will in terms of track conditions, but I don't see anybody coming into pit unless they want maybe a fast lap, but I don't think that'll happen either, because the track won't be in the requisite conditions. Now, we've got Luke Prentice here, still 2.5 seconds clear of Tulloch. What was 2.6 seconds, I'm sure will come down by a couple of tenths, as has been the norm in Sector 1. So yeah, well, 11.7 behind Arish, and well, it's down by a tenth. I was nearly right, wasn't I? Arish there, as you can see, just stroking it home, isn't he, really? There's no need for him to be pushing as fast as he can, and he's maintained that gap at 11.5 seconds. So Luke Prentice there with very impressive wet weather racing, and certainly impressive wet weather pace. So where the dry pace wasn't quite what he was hoping for a little bit earlier on, certainly the wet pace is carrying him through now and carrying him away from the threat of Team Scotland. Paul Vidler, meanwhile, has Josh Clayton on the back. Now, these two clashed earlier, didn't they, with Vidler running into the back of Clayton. I wonder if revenge is on Clayton's mind, as he's now within half a second. I don't know quite how that's happened so quickly, because while Mendes probably gotten out of Clayton's way, Clayton will have had to take 2 seconds a lap out of Vidler, so I would assume that there's been perhaps some difficulty for the Englishman. So Clayton now going through the Gorbury Loop and trying to set himself up onto the Wellington Straight. Now, is he close enough? I don't think he is, but is he close enough to perhaps maybe have a go a little bit later on and maybe set something up through Luffield? I don't think he'll be close enough to outbrake Vidler, although the Aston is certainly gaining on him down the straight, and he's certainly got plenty of pace in a straight line, that Aston Martin, as Vidler there defends. Does he run slightly wide, actually? We saw that last time between these two, and a couple of the Aston Martin spun around. But Clayton now having a look through Woodcote. The Ferrari not looking at all happy, is he, on that track as he goes to the inside? Is he going to let him pass? I think he is. That might be a guilty pleasure. No, not a guilty pleasure. That might be a guilty conscience on behalf of Paul Vidler. And if it is, then great to see. I think Clayton appreciates that he's let him go on that one, then hence the weaving. So sportsmanlike conduct between the two drivers. Meanwhile, off the track goes Trevor Mendes. He's back onto the circuit just ahead of Basler, who was fighting with a little bit earlier on, but he's still in 7th position. But he had a little wobble coming out of Copse Corner and ended up on where the pit exit would be. And now Trevor Mendes has got a bit of work to do to hang on to 7th place. Josh Clayton, meanwhile, making good his escape on Paul Vidler, who still has that damage to the Ferrari. So it's not all plain sailing for Paul Vidler after the earlier contact, but he's making a good job, as well as the sportsmanlike conduct that we like to see from Vidler a little bit earlier on, when he moved over and let Clayton through after their earlier collision. So 6.5 seconds between Clayton and Sharp. Now, Sharp's Honda hasn't been particularly well behaved, has it, in the wet conditions? He's been off once or twice and lost what was a pretty easy second place, and he's now dropped off the battle for second and third. Second and third separate for 2.5 seconds. They're going to be separated for 2.5 seconds, you would assume, through most of the rest of the race, as the rain is starting to ease up. You can see actually that it's going to be dry within 5 minutes, so possibly even dry a little bit quicker than that in terms of it stopping raining. I don't think the track will dry out, but it might be that if it does go from wet to damp, for example, and as the water content on the track goes down, that actually the drivers might have to start cooling their tyres, or those with slightly lower pressures might be coming into their own as Clayton goes round the final corner. 6.8 seconds off the back of the Honda, so I suspect that he'll need more Honda misbehaving in order to get any further up the pack. So Clayton there with a decent time, though, isn't it? That's a cracking lap in terms of he's gone 1.4 seconds quicker than Vidler, or he's got 1.4 seconds on Vidler, and he's gained half a second through the third sector. So impressive stuff there in terms of pace from the Aston Martin. I wonder if he'll be thinking about what might have been, as I think Jake Barnett, he is clear of Keller now. He's in 9th position. He's got a decent gap between him and Keller. Keller, who's in shot, who's got Vereth all over the back of him. The Lamborghini, not the quickest in a straight line, but might be able to have a move down on the brakes, down the hanger straight. Although he does go slightly wide, doesn't he, through the third part of the Beckett to Maggott sort of complex there that you see, through Church. Now down the back straight we go, down the hanger straight, so here we go. And going into Stowe Corner, is Vereth going to make a move down the inside here? He does, not quite, but he was a lot later on the brakes than Keller. Nearly rams the Hungarian off the road, as Adam Sharp has had further misbehavings, because, as we can see there, the Honda does appear to have, well, he's let Paul Vidler go, but he was behind, well, he is behind Josh Clayton. He was 6 odd seconds clear of Team Mozambique, and it goes from bad to worse for Team England, because Sharp, who was second earlier on and keeping pace with the leader, he's now about half a minute off the leader, and he's now in 6th position. The Honda really not behaving in these wet weather conditions. Such a shame for Team England, because what was a guaranteed podium is now going to be at best 5th and 6th place. So Sharp's main championship, or the overall championship, will go okay, and I think he still might be scoring the points for Team England because of the fact that the fastest lap is an extra 5 points. So he's still going to score decent points, but it's going to be not quite what the doctor ordered for Team England. Right, now Basler half a second behind Trevor Mendes, who is still holding on to 7th place for Mozambique. So it's going to be 4th and 7th for Mozambique, when it threatened to be a lot worse than that. And at the moment, he's keeping Team Netherlands at bay. Basler, who's been not quite able to get past since Mendes went off the road, as I think there's been a move for 10th position. There has been, as Joachim Vereth has gone through for Team Ecuador to get past Christian Keller. Keller's dropped out of the top 10, but he drops it. Vereth drops back out of the top 10, as soon as I said that Keller was dropping out of the top 10, Vereth drops it on the white line and has done very well indeed to catch that Lamborghini, but he's going to have to go again with 7.5 minutes to go, and what was 10th is now back to being 11th. Meanwhile, Basler right on the back of Mendes going into Stowe Corner. This might be a bit of a dress rehearsal for later on in the race, not quite as he goes through Stowe Corner, but not able to make the move. So he was getting a lot closer than 7 tenths of a second. He was only 2 tenths of a second, and now Mendes is on the defensive because the Ferrari, very big in the mirrors of the Mozambique McLaren, and what was after earlier errors from Basler, because he mysteriously went off about 10 minutes ago, didn't he, when he was fighting for 7th place, and now he's back behind Mendes, with Mendes having let Vidler go through as well as his teammate Josh Clayton. And yeah, it's been difficult for Mendes to get up any sort of momentum, even though the result is still looking like it's going to be a very strong one, because Basler in the Netherlands Ferrari is looking a lot quicker. He was quick earlier on, wasn't he? He was involved in that incident between Vidler and Clayton a little bit earlier on at Luffield. He was the sort of innocent victim, the bystander really, but you can see the damage on the front end, which was caused by hitting I think it might have been Vidler, where they'd crashed into each other, and I think they'd sort of stopped in front of him. But the Ferrari, despite that affliction, is still looking very quick indeed. Now it stopped raining and the track is already damp. You can see that Luke Prince has actually taken over a 2.5 seconds out of Airesh's lead. We'll see whether or not that falls. It's 6 minutes to go, which is more or less 3-4 laps with where they are. But as you see, 10.5 seconds is not quite going to be enough, is it, for the Aston Martin, as all the drivers are now going to have to start trying to find ways to cool their tyres down, because it might even be greasy by the time they get to the end, and that will add further difficulty. Adam Sharp, meanwhile, has pitted, and I suspect gone into retirement. So the battle that we were looking at there between Basler and Mendes, what was 6th position is, was 7th position, is now 6th position, as I think that is a retirement for Adam Sharp. Don't think he's realised that his fastest lap would have scored him a bucket load more points, or maybe there may have been further difficulties for the Yorkshireman in the Honda. Speaking of difficulties, Trevor Mendes has kicked the back end out, coming out of Stowe Corner. Round the outside goes Marcel Basler into the club chicane. I don't think it's going to work there, but he does get the turn back. That's going to put him out of position, but back in position for the run-through Vale. Side by side they go through the Formula One final corner. They do lean on each other, but that's relatively clean racing through there, chaps. Well done. And Basler is up into 7th position. He gets the drop, into 6th position, gets the drop on Trevor Mendes. And the Mozambique driver falls back further, but Team Netherlands have gained 2 places in the space of a lap. Great driver there from Marcel Basler. Now we are going to look at the, I'm not going to say battle, it's down, Trevor Mendes there just missed the back of Basler there, so what would have been 6th position for Basler could have been very short-lived. The Mozambique driver doing very well actually to miss out and miss the back, and we've got there Barnett in 8th position, which is his best race for a long time. Barnett having made his debut in this championship and on Taco Tuesday. It's been a bit of a baptism of fire for the New Zealand representative, but he has done a very good job here today, and there might even be a breakthrough performance. So with the track being as damp as it is, I wonder if the track drivers are actually going to try and go and cool their tyres down. Some might do, there's still some moisture offline, but the wet tyres are just going to be going or increasing in temperature, and actually you're going to get when they increase in temperature, they start to move around. The cars get actually a lot worse in terms of their drivability and their overall grip. So you are going to get some potential movers and shakers. Speaking of, Andrew Tulloch has taken about 1.5 seconds out of Luke Prentice over the last couple of laps. So we'll see whether the Scotsman in the Aston might actually fancy a run at Team New Zealand's 2nd place. And what was a race built on guile. Yeah, Luke Prentice is going to rather aggressively call those tyres offline, so I do wonder if he's starting to hit problems. We'll stay with this for the next couple of next couple of laps. We have only got a couple of laps to go because it's 3 minutes left there or thereabouts, as Eresh is now just going through into the final sector. So we'll have probably 2 more laps to go after this, but Prentice, they're having to cool his tyres somewhat, pretty aggressively, wasn't he, down the Formula One front straight. He's still got 2 seconds over Tulloch, but yeah, you can see him moving down the Wellington straight offline and all the way offline to try and cool those tyres down, whereas Tulloch, you can see, appears to have better tyre temperature and better tyre pressures now in the final sector. Prentice now hanging around the final real corner, which is Luffield. Woodcote used to be a lot more of an event than it now currently is. It's just an acceleration zone for these cars, but Luke Prentice might just have some defending to do. Team New Zealand, is he going to move over to call those tyres? No, not quite as much. Hasn't lost a lot of time to Tulloch, but Tulloch's been a lot stronger in this first sector relative to his Team New Zealand counterpart. So we're going to follow him through first sector, where you can't really cool your tyres until you get onto the hanger straight. So there's going to be a lot of stress on these tyres in the next 3, 4, 5 corners. We're through 3 of them, and now we've got the right-hander followed by the acceleration zone left-hander that it really is now. Got to make sure that you keep the car. Yeah, he's going to move straight over, isn't he? So, yeah, more tyre cooling from Team New Zealand. And what's he lost? Has he lost anything? He has not. He's lost 0.3 of a second. So, not much time lost forwards to Eresh for Team Germany. But, 1.6 seconds now, the gap between Tulloch and Prentice. Tulloch's going to have to get a bit of a move on here. So, I don't know whether or not he's going to have enough time to make that move. But Tulloch certainly a threat to Prentice as the track is getting warmer and warmer. You can see the sun's now coming out, and you can see the glare off of the track through the Vale chicane. So, doubt he's not cooling his tyres here, Luke. So I wonder if he's just sort of abandoning that plan, because having to move offline and back online might present its own pitfalls. Now, going into the Grand Prix loop. Now through what was turn 3 as Eresh does start his last lap. We'll get back to him as and when the he's not started last lap. What was that? That must have been a call for dry tyres. I don't think dry tyres are going to be optimum when you've only got a minute to go in and put them on. So I think that's rather poor from the spotter. But Tulloch has lost 0.5 seconds in the second sector. So I do wonder if the Scotsman might be buttoning it off. And in that case, Jack Barnett is now right on the back of Marcel Basler. Basler, who was in 6th position, but the Ferrari has dropped off quite dramatically. He's let Trevor Mendes back through, so Mozambique a very strong double shoving for them. Of course, Mendes will score points only for his own championship rather than anything else, and the same will go for Jack Barnett at this stage. But if you can knock Holland down, well, you're not going to do your own team any harm, are you? So Barnett is to the outside. Basel, you can't see him, but he has gone to cool his tyres off, I think. Has he? No. Where's he gone? Where has he gone? Because has he spun? He must have spun and Raikkonen did it, and he is ported to the pits, and that is disaster for Team Holland, just as the race was considered over in terms of the clock striking zero. Team Holland spin from 7th place, and having been 6th as recently as a couple of laps ago, Marcel Basel will score points for 16th place. So Holland, what was looking really promising for them, is now looking like a bit of a damp squib, if you'll pardon the pun. Now, Joachim Vereth has got past Christian Keller, isn't he? Who's got now Serafino Gabino right behind him. So Team Ecuador are going to finish 8th, so it's going to be an unexpected top 8 for Ecuador, for Hungary and for Team Italy. And Marcelin Brustulli now towards the back he was earlier. He's now in 11th place. He's got past Aaron Townsend at long last. Fernando Ferreira is up into 13th place, assisted and abetted by 2 retirements, but he still nonetheless climbs ahead of David Fast and of Darren Mark Davies. So we're going to go to the leader because he's about to finish his lap, and it's been another imperious display from Erich, and that's been evidenced by the fact that we've barely seen him since the opening laps, where he did have a little bit of trouble from Adam Sharp earlier on, but the German is going to go back to winning ways. It's going to be 4 wins out of 5 for the metronomic robotic behemoth that is Erich, who is going to cross the line, pull over to the right hand side, flash of the lights and take the checkered flag. And that is 4 wins in 5 for Erich, who is on course again to have only victories count towards his season end, with only 1 drop score, with 3 drop scores and only 1 non-victory so far. Luke Prentice is going to take 2nd for Team New Zealand. An excellent drive from him, built on guile rather than speed. Andrew Tulloch likewise will take 3rd position for Team Scotland, having dropped back a little bit later on. And Josh Clayton, what could have been, he's recovered up to 4th position, so it's a save for Team Mozambique with the earlier collision with Paul Vidler, who's going to score 5th position for Team England. Those two having collided a little bit earlier, I wonder what might have been for those two, because they both had the pace to get on the podium. Trevor Mendes is going to take 6th, so whilst Mozambique aren't going to score points for his 6th place, he will do very well indeed for his own championship. Jack Barnett is going to be 7th. Excellent drive from the New Zealand driver, who has taken 7th place, which won't do New Zealand anything, but it will do his confidence a world of good. Joachim Vereth takes 8th for Ecuador, ahead of Christian Keller and Serafino Gabino, who will take 10th. Marcelin Brustulli will finish 11th. I promise you that is the case. Someone's just left. So Marcelin Brustulli is going to take 11th, with Darren Townsend in 12th. Ahead of Fernando Ferreira in 13th, who was racing Townsend to the line. Then Fast going to take 14th, and wide again through Woodcote with Darren Mark Davies in 15th, and Marcel Basler and Adam Sharp failing to finish. So that's it. Once again, it does have officially Luke Prentice as the winner, but that is not the case. That was Erich ahead of Luke Prentice, with Andrew Tulloch in 3rd to complete the podium. So a mix of experience and a little bit of youth on Erich's side to get through onto the podium. So just a couple of things from me now in terms of going through promotions before we finish this, before we finish the stream and before we finish the broadcast, which is that FRL has a Patreon server, which is £4 per month. So it's that, or it's half a Big Mac and it's a third of a bacon double XL from Burger King. That's the only thing I can really tell you in terms of cost. But for that, you get your own picture, you get early access to any championship that you want to get into, which is WRC, which is LMU, for example, that's now coming out. Wrench Sports now coming out, as well as Taco Tuesdays, which is the flagship show, Sunday nights, where you can hear myself and Greg Wood on commentary, as well as Thursday nights, which is tonight, place for the service, place for the commentators, place for everything. So if you haven't already and you want to get involved, leave a comment on the stream and Adam will reach out to you. We thank you so much to all those that do it. And it's just time for me to say we will see you again next week at Brands Hatch, where the weather will likely be as cold and as wet and as miserable as it has been today, which will hopefully lead to fireworks out on the circuit. Thank you so much for joining me. I've been Jack Prentice. Good night.